All right, today we're going to tackle a system that impacts pretty much every single American. But let's be honest, it's often surrounded by a whole lot of confusion. Social Security. We're going to unpack exactly what it is, how you pay into it, and yeah, what the future might actually hold for it. Chances are you have one of these. A 9-digit number. It's on your tax forms, it's on your job applications, maybe you even have the card tucked away in your wallet somewhere. But what is it really for? Beyond just being another ID number, what is its actual job? Well, at its most basic level, your Social Security number, your SSN, is a tracking tool. The government uses it to keep a super accurate record of everything you earn over your entire life. And those earnings, they're the absolute key to figuring out what benefits you might get down the road. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First up, what is this number really? Then we'll get into the Social Security deal. Where does all the money come from? After that, what does your number actually unlock for you? Then, how do people get into the system in the first place? And finally, we'll look at why this system is constantly changing. Okay, so let's start with the absolute fundamentals. Think of that 9-digit number as the essential key, right? It's the one thing that connects the work you're doing today with the benefits you could receive way in the future. So your SSN basically has a few really critical jobs. Your employer uses it to tell the government how much you made. The Social Security Administration, or SSA, uses it to track your entire work history. And here's the bottom line, really. You can't legally get a job in the US without one. And if you don't have a work history, well, you won't be eligible for those crucial benefits later on. Okay, so where does the money for all of these benefits actually come from? That brings us to Section 2, the Social Security deal. And honestly, it's really helpful to think of it as a kind of pact between generations. See, Social Security is what's known as a social insurance program. Now, that's important because it is not a personal savings account. The money you pay in from your paycheck today isn't just sitting in an account with your name on it. No, those contributions are used to pay the benefits for people who are retired right now or for other current beneficiaries. And it's all funded through a very specific payroll tax called FICA. So what's the magic number you need to remember? It's 7.65%. If you're an employee, that's the slice of your gross wages that gets taken out for FICA taxes. But that's only half the story. Your employer has to kick in an identical 7.65%, which means the total contribution is actually 15.3% of what you earn. But wait, that 7.65% doesn't all go to one place. It's actually split into two. The bigger chunk, 6.2%, goes directly into the Social Security trust funds. That's the money for retirement, disability, and survivor benefits. The other 1.45%, that's earmarked for something you've definitely heard of, Medicare. Okay, so you've been contributing part of every single paycheck. So what does all that actually get you? What does it unlock? That's what Section 3 is all about. We're going to cover the benefits you're earning, and we're going to bust some pretty common myths about what the system does and does not do. It's just as important to understand what Social Security is not as it is to know what it is. It absolutely provides a foundation for your retirement income, and it's a critical safety net if you become disabled. But it is not a catch-all solution for everything. For instance, it does not cover long-term nursing home care, which is a huge expense for a lot of seniors. And it's not a general welfare program for things like housing or food. And here's something that trips a lot of people up, the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Just think of it like this. Medicare is the health insurance you earn through all those FICA taxes you've been paying. You paid in, so you get it. Medicaid, on the other hand, is an assistance program that's based on having a very low income, and it's funded by general taxes, not by Social Security. All right, let's get practical for a minute. How do people even get one of these incredibly important numbers in the first place? Let's dive into Section 4, Getting into the System. The path to getting an SSN really isn't one size fits all. For most US-born citizens, it's super simple. Their parents just apply at the hospital right when the baby is born. But for lots of other people, the process is tied directly to their immigration and work status. You've got specific pathways for foreign workers, international students who are authorized to work, and DACA recipients. The system even has a special, confidential process for victims of domestic violence who might need a new number to stay safe. But here's the one thing that's true for everyone, no matter how they apply. You have got to have your paperwork in order. The SSA is very strict about this. They need original or certified documents to prove who you are, how old you are, and that you are either a U.S. citizen or have the legal work-authorized status to be here. It's a really crucial security measure to protect the whole system. And that brings us to our final section, and it's a really important one.
Social Security is not some static thing set in stone. It is constantly being debated, updated, and reformed to deal with new challenges. It's an evolving system.
Just to show you how much things could change, let's look at a policy proposal from one of our sources. It describes a hypothetical executive order that would go after the long-standing practice of birthright citizenship. This directive says that government agencies should not issue U.S. citizenship documents to anyone born here if their mother was unlawfully present or even here on a temporary legal basis. So under a proposal like this, the whole process of giving SSNs to newborns would change. The SSA would automatically check the immigration status of the parents. If everything checks out, boom, the baby gets an SSN. But if it can't be confirmed, the application gets flagged and the parents get a notice saying they need to provide more proof. You know, this idea of big changes is really nothing new. The system has been evolving since day one, way back in 1935 when it was signed into law. Huge things like disability benefits and Medicare, they were added decades later. And in 1972, they started doing automatic cost of living adjustments, which was another massive shift. The debates we hear today are just part of this long history of adaptation. And those cost of living adjustments, or COLAs, are a perfect real-world example of the system responding to the economy. They're meant to make sure benefits can keep up with inflation. And just look at how much they can swing. We saw a huge 8.7% jump in 2023 when inflation was high, but it's down to a more modest 2.8% plan for 2026. So from debates about funding to tweaks in the rules, the one thing that's constant with Social Security is change. It's a system that directly touches almost every single American, which leaves us with one final question for you. As this system keeps evolving, are you keeping up?